The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission has seized around 5 million ringgit from a safe house linked to a prominent politician.
The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission has arrested former Army Chief General
MACC began probe last year against former Prime Minister Ismail
The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission is a very powerful law enforcement agency. It can arrest people, it can freeze their bank accounts, it doesn't need to use the police to do any of these things.
There were all these high-profile raids going on. There were all these allegations that there was a group of businessmen who were working with MACC to take down their rivals and take over companies.
Ya, seperti yang dilaporkan dalam artikel Rahsia Mafia Korporat Malaysia.
Rahsia Mafia Korporat Malaysia. Sejak beberapa hari lalu, sebuah portal menerbitkan artikel berhubung sekumpulan individu melakukan cubaan merampas syarikat sedarai awam dan sebuah syarikat lain.
We wanted to find out if there was any truth to these allegations.
I was brought into MACC and was questioned. Some of the officers were intimidating me, banging the table, screaming at me.
It's like you're cut off from the whole world. It was a lot of hurt. Then there was a lot of stress, anger.
People were just very scared to talk to us. There's an immense fear that the MACC can just one day turn up at your doorstep and just make your life a living hell.
What's being alleged is that the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission is actually corrupt. This is the agency that's supposed to police all the other agencies for corruption in Malaysia. One of the most explosive things is that in some cases, questions about suspicious conduct may lead all the way to the very top of the organization.
Rasuah ibarat penyakit kronik, seumpama kanser yang tidak dirawat akan menghancurkan negara kita.
I have been covering Malaysia for over 20 years. Malaysia is a vibrant country. It's got great food, great mix of cultures. And then, unfortunately, Malaysia is also known for corruption scandals.
That's it over there, right?
Yep, that is the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission headquarters in Putrajaya, and this is the administrative capital of Malaysia.
We're literally right in the center of Putrajaya here. You've got the Prime Minister's office there. You've got the mosque in the center of Putrajaya there. And the next kind of really important, like distinctive building on the skyline is the MACC headquarters.
And this was supposedly a symbol of the government's commitment to fighting corruption.
The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission investigates corruption. It essentially reports to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, in effect, picks its chief commissioner. But in 2015, allegations started to emerge that Prime Minister Najib Razak was involved in the 1MDB scandal.
The massive embezzlement of billions of dollars from the 1MDB state fund was one of the world's biggest financial scandals.
Now, we all know what the 1MDB scandal was, the looting of that investment fund, the extraordinary looting.
Money spent all around the world on luxury goods, including yachts, movies.
About $681 million ended up in Najib's personal bank accounts. At that point, the MACC started an investigation into Najib, but it later said the money came from a donation.
Malaysia's Attorney General said today $681 million transferred into Prime Minister Najib Razak's personal bank account was a gift from the royal family in Saudi Arabia.
So it was a very splashy scandal. It was only when Najib was thrown out of power that the next Prime Minister came in and then ordered for the MACC to reopen investigations. There was a power vacuum, and you had several Prime Ministers come in. At some point, there was the 2022 elections, and Anwar waged this campaign of cleaning up on corruption, and a lot of people believed him. They saw him as a reformer. Anwar and his coalition promised to make the MACC more independent.
The Malaysian king has named Anwar Ibrahim as the country's new prime minister.
We are talking about the survival of this great nation, Malaysia, for all Malaysians in this country.
I'm a lawyer and I have been in practice for 22 years. At some point, I served as the MACC chief.
Latifah Koya has been named as the new MACC Chief Commissioner. The PMO said the appointment is among the steps to reform government institutions.
They've appointed police officers before, but no one from completely outside. They view me as obviously an outsider. Outsiders are trouble, basically. Their reputation, the trust at that time, Anti-Corruption Agency was really, really bad. And they were told to bring in outside consultants to do some major changes. You're supposed to be independent. The reality is that if you're too independent and if you don't follow too much instruction, then you may not go up, you may lose your position. So everything is about, did I step the wrong toes? It was a really steep learning curve for me.
MACC Chief Commissioner Latifah Koya has tendered her resignation after holding the post for only 9 months.
It was a very brief stint, but somehow it felt long. I thought it's best to go back to my old life.
Latifah said the decision was her own and denied speculation that there was pressure for her to quit.
Unfortunately, when Azam came in, it's back to square one.
MACC Deputy Chief Commissioner Azam Baki has been appointed as the Commission's new Chief Commissioner.
So Azam Baki is an MACC lifer. He's with the agency for more than 4 decades.
I joined in 1984 and I became senior officer in 2008. That's why
he steadily climbed up the ranks. After Latifah resigned, Azam Baki finally got the top job and became Chief Commissioner. It was kind of going back to convention. He's been described to us as a very smooth and charismatic man, someone with a penchant for doing deals.
He loves being an enforcement officer. He loves being in MACC. The person that you give responsibility or power cannot hold on or love the position too much. That's the beginning of a problem.
We're doing lots of reporting trips to Malaysia, talking to dozens of people. We have gone through thousands of pages of documents about the MACC.
As we dug deeper, we realized there were many stories about alleged intimidation by the MACC out there. People were just very scared to talk to us.
I'm a senior management staff of a company, and one day, the MACC came to the office on the basis that a complaint was filed and they wanted to investigate some transactions related to the company. They were whispering and sending messages to someone else. They were very suspicious in their behavior. Later, I was asked to go to MACC headquarters. I was put in a room. After a while, officers started coming in. Then they started taking turns to ask me questions. And the questioning went on and on. There was no clear direction what they were asking me. I was stressed. Some officers were actually uncomfortable. I sensed that something was definitely not right. It appears that MACC was used as a tool to intimidate, to pressure me to surrender. Basically, it is harassment.
Adam alleged that the people working with the MACC to pressure him have been called the corporate mafia.
Ya, seperti yang dilaporkan dalam artikel, rahsia mafia korporat Malaysia.
Rahsia mafia korporat Malaysia.
The corporate mafia is a term that first appeared in a Malay language blog, and it was a term used to describe a network of mostly ethnic Chinese businessmen in Malaysia who, it was alleged in the blog, were using the MACC to go after founders of companies because they wanted to take over the companies. The blog's characterization was misleading. The businessmen aren't mafia in the traditional sense. There is no rigid hierarchy. So the alleged playbook of this network of individuals is roughly the same in each case. One or more people in the network appear on the scene at a Malaysian listed company. And then shortly after that, the MACC announces that it's investigating one of the founders of the company. Then they're taken in for questioning, detained by MACC officers. They were allegedly told, if you sell your shares in this company to a person of the network at a discount, these investigations will end. Your problems will go away.
I'm a business entrepreneur who became a victim. The whole thing was a setup to get me out of the company. I was brought into MACC and was questioned. The moment you are in there, they put fear in you. They harass you, and they deprive you of your access even to the lawyers. Basically, they forcefully try to take your statement, which when I say A, they'll type B. So they'll ask you, okay. At the end of the day, you sign here and they don't really give you a chance to read through. I spend a whole day from morning until night. I'm exhausted. I just want to get out of the place.
When it comes to alleged intimidation by the MACC, there have been several instances of executives from other companies that have gone through the same thing.
So this group here has been called the corporate mafia. This guy, his name is Victor Chin. In one lawsuit, executives called Chin the directing mind behind efforts to remove them from their company.
So Victor Chin has been investigated by several Malaysian agencies for tax evasion, share manipulation, and money laundering. But to this date, he has not been charged in any court. So we have been told by several people that Chin prefers to operate through a number of associates, and one of them
is this guy, Andy Lim.
We've been told by several people inside and outside the MACC that Andy Lim is very close to the Chief Commissioner, Azam Baki.
We obtained an internal MACC memo, which was written around 2020 by officers in the MACC's intelligence division. And what this memo lays out is that Azam Baki and Andy Lim were close friends. And this was well known in the MACC.
So here we have a link between the head of the MACC and a person in the group that has been called the corporate mafia.
We know this from documents like charge sheets, arrest warrants. The group within the MACC that handled the arrests and the charges is a section of the investigations division of the MACC called Section D. So Section D has, a specific remit to cover listed companies, the stock market, insider trading, and so forth.
So we have sources in the MACC who told us that Section D offered a range of services. And this included intimidation, and it could go on to raids and arrests. And the ultimate thing was to eventually get people charged in court. We had one official from the MACC tell us that the price could go to millions of ringgit, and that's hundreds of thousands of US dollars.
Rasuah ibarat penyakit kronik, seumpama kanser yang tidak dirawat akan menghancurkan negara kita.
According to 3 people we spoke to, Section D isn't a rogue faction within the MACC. Senior officials, including the most senior official of the lot, Chief Commissioner Azam Baki, is aware of its activities.
My research has been predominantly on the topic of the relationship between government and business. I've also inevitably gone into the topic of corruption. At one point, I was appointed to one of the panels in MACC. MACC officials used to come to see me to talk about cases, and I would give them feedback. I thought that was a fascinating moment for me, but then unfortunately, things fell apart when I suddenly realized that there was a case going on involving none other than the Chief Commissioner of the MACC, Azam Baki.
The MACC chief was recently implicated in a shares ownership scandal.
A 2-part article detailing his alleged ownership of millions of shares in 2 public listed companies.
In Malaysia, if you're a public official, you're only allowed to hold a certain amount in a company's shares, and the amount that he held was way beyond the amount he was supposed to hold.
Where did all the money come from that allowed him to acquire all the shares? This became a major controversy in the country. There were demonstrations on the street asking for action against Azam Baki.
Kerana saya tidak melakukan apa-apa jua kesalahan maupun ada konflik of interest seperti mana saya sebutkan tadi. Pembelian saham itu bukan dilakukan oleh saya, tetapi oleh adik saya yang meminjam akaun saya pada ketika itu.
This argument made by Azam Baki did not hold water. There was no action against the MACC chief.
What was also found in the public records in the shareholding scandal was cases of Andy Lim investing in a company and around the same time Azam Baki investing in a company.
In another case, an executive of a company says that he was summoned to a meeting with Andy Lim.
The suspect allegedly showed the victim a gun.
According to the police report, a gun could be seen tucked into his trousers. With speaking to our sources in the police, Andy Lim was arrested by the police and his gun was taken away. At some point, Azam Baki allegedly called the police and asked them to return Andy Lim's gun.
Because as long as Azam Baki remained as Chief Commissioner, the very integrity of the MACC was brought into question. So this was an ideal opportunity now to appoint someone who would bring a more independent face to the MACC. It did not happen. His contract was renewed.
Irony of all ironies, he's still there. A lot of people can't understand that. Why? This is something somebody should ask the Prime Minister.
The decision to extend the service of Azam Baki as the MACC Chief Commissioner was due to his satisfactory performance. This is according to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim.
SPRM berani menggeledah semua tokoh-tokoh besar.
You came in on a platform of anti-corruption, and actually not only you did not remove Azam or make any other changes, you just made it worse.
With all these allegations against Azam Baki, why is Anwar repeatedly renewing his contract, keeping him in office? My interpretation of it is Azam Baki has served Anwar Ibrahim quite well in terms of going after critics of Anwar, including Times, I know, the former finance minister, who it has been alleged had accumulated a lot of wealth while he served as finance minister in the 1980s and 1990s. Another person was Mahathir Mohamad.
If you have money, you have connections, you have power, you can just fix up anybody in this country. I don't feel safe.
What's being alleged is that the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission is actually corrupt. This is the agency that's supposed to police all the other agencies for corruption in Malaysia. If the MACC is corrupt, Malaysia has a serious problem.
MACC or this government, like the emperor who have no clothes. They think they look good, but everybody can see the selective and discriminatory way they are managing.
So here we have the rhetoric of curbing corruption and the reality of not really acting to curb corruption. It's a question of political will. You keep all the tools you have with you to help keep you in power. And that's where political will goes out the window.